Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back with some knife content. Wanted to do another iteration of making amends. I think we're up to 7. I'm going to keep this one short. First and foremost, and there's a couple topics that I want to cover, but look at this. I have quite a few Chris Reeves now. Yeah, when I put all these boxes together for this video, it actually kind of scared me. Conveniently, I keep them in a drawer so I don't have to look at them all in the same place at the same time. But this has kind of turned into a little bit of a problem, albeit a good problem to have. But one of the things that we're going to be talking about are those higher end Chris Reeve knives, because certainly I've gotten pretty deep in, being very particular about what I'm buying. Have not purchased any plain Jane versions of anything. It's all been inlaid and or Damascus. So we're gonna go over some of my observations based on that, because I kind of have a little bit of a hypothesis, but with regards to diminishing returns, and since I buy, sell, and trade on the secondary market, just an observation that I made and kind of wanted to get your input on it. Also wanted to go over what I've been carrying, which I'll knock that out right now. As these newer Chris Reeves have trickled in, I'll kind of go through what I've gotten. I still do find, based on the break-in, etc. I'm still loving this Knife Art exclusive Chris Reeve Sabenza 31 that I switched out the plain Jane blade for a Chad Nichols Damascus. The other ones that I've gotten in that I've been carrying quite a bit. So I ended up getting so this one's going to be a Macassar ebony version with, again, that same Damascus pattern on there, but the other side's glass blasted. Also ended up picking up bog oak version of the same, looks like that, gold thumb studs with a little bit of a Gucci pocket clip there. I was also really happy to get my hands on a box elder 31 Damascus, looks like that. And then finally, kind of the main topic of conversation when we actually get there is going to be this Chris Reeve unique graphic 31 with Damascus. I probably wouldn't have bought this if it didn't have the Damascus blade on it. And there's actually another kind of factor that I wanted to discuss, because I definitely think I'm onto something. But day in and day out, that's been my rotation, which poor me. But I do find myself, on the weekends, I still have my Zahn, as well as I have a plain Jane Sabenza 31 that I've been carrying too. But honestly, the Striders haven't been getting much love. I don't know, I'm kind of on a Chris Reeve kick here, so this is quickly turning into a Chris Reeve channel. But with that, there were a couple other topics that I wanted to get into. The next one being kind of my observations on the secondary market, and I still do have quite a small handful of blades that I'm trying to move at this point. I do have that both of my Incosis, so the full carbon fiber and then the carbon fiber inlaid version. I'm trying to get rid of them. Just I have not been carrying them, and honestly, they're a little bit too bulky and heavy. Like, if I want a heavier use knife, I'm gonna go for the Zahn every single time. I know people like the dual thumb studs on the Incosi, and I think it does have a place for some people, but I'm kind of like all or nothing. If I want a daily use knife, medium use, whatever, I'm gonna go for the Sabenza every single time. And if I need something hard use, so I'm working out in the yard, whatever, I have no problems picking up my Zahn for things like that. So there's that. But I have been finding, though, when I've been trying to sell things, I'm also trying to get rid of my Strider PT, as well as I have one more Chavez, so it's a scapegoat that, again, I don't hate that knife, but I just have not been carrying it all, so trying to move that one as well. And kind of what I've been finding is people will, DM me on Facebook, even though, I post pictures of, for instance, the Chris Reeves, like the card, the condition, whatever, and I either get people that are just asking a ton of questions back and forth, videos, blah, 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 to, in the 11th hour, when you think you're so close to making a deal, then being like, well, I'll think about it, or I have to wait till next week till I get paid, whatever. It's just honestly been frustrating. And I know that, if I wanted to have a fire sale and just get rid of all of them and just be done with it, I realize that that's an option, but it's not the option that I want to take. I do have money or trades into those knives, and I have a price, and I think that it's a pretty fair price. So I don't really know what's going on with that, but it's been a little bit frustrating whenever anybody DMs me. I'm like, oh, here we go again. So hopefully that'll change. If not, I'm going to be sitting on these because, I mean, they're certainly not losing money. And that's one of the cool things about Chris Reeve, like especially the more special edition ones, which those are the only ones that I'm trying to sell. You're not going to lose money on them. You just hold off as long as you're not kind of in a hurry to sell them. My recommendation would be biding your time, and we'll see how well I take my own advice. The one thing that I will say from trying to move those higher end Chris Reeves, the two that I mentioned, those two Nkosi's, man, even if you write no trades, like everybody is trying to hit you up with a trade, and more often than not, they're for OEM Chinese knives. And it got me kind of thinking that now, since I'm in this realm of Chris Reeve knives, I don't think that I would ever trade, a Chris Reeve for a Chinese OEM knife. I don't think that I would. Like, it just doesn't seem like a fair trade. I mean, you could go so far as to, do a 2-for-1, get two Chinese OEM ones for, an American-made Chris Reeve. But I really just think on the whole that I'm not going to be able to beat kind of, as far as, again, knife investments, we put that in air quotes. I really don't think you can beat a U.S. manufacturer. Like, I mean, you can trade me OEM Chinese knives all day, and I think I'm going to be deflecting them left and right. So that was the other thing too. Like there's a lot of trade fodder out there, but for the most part, it's kind of crap in my opinion. So be on the lookout for that. All right, the last item that I wanted to discuss is kind of my experience with the Chris Reeve Damascus, and like these more specifically. Again, this is kind of this is the perfect knife to use as an example, but these unique graphic Chris Reeves. And I think you kind of get to a point of diminishing returns with these, whereas someone as a person who uses their knives and, they're not sitting, it's not like this is like a Bubble Boy knife and, it's sitting in my gun safe and I take it out late at night and stare at it and then, put white gloves on. I actually I love that when people have like white gloves on and they're showing the action of a knife. Like, I think once you get to this level, the unique graphic and or the Damascus, the pool of people that are interested, and again, I'm not saying that I buy knives or watches as an investment or anything like that. Like I do, like I find joy in using them. But the tricky thing is when you get into a knife like this and then you use it, your candidate pool of like eligible people who would want to buy it on the secondary, if you had to, or if you just decided you're like, hey, actually decide I don't like this anymore, the people that are interested in this knife are very, very nitpicky. From what I've seen, correct me if I'm wrong, if you've seen anything different, but the people that are using these unique graphic, that have purchased these unique graphic knives or are looking for them are very, very particular. And this one is a perfect example. It was for sale for a really good price, I thought. I was a couple minutes late, missed out on it, and the guy who actually ended up purchasing it, who has a beautiful Chris Reeve collection, like a felt line drawer, slide it out, whatever, he ended up contacting me and being like, hey, are you still interested in that knife? And I was like, well, what's wrong with it? That was my first question. Like, I didn't know if it was buyer's remorse, whatever. I'll try to post a couple pictures, but what he pointed out as far as like scratches on this thing were, in my mind, non-existent. I mean, just from me holding this right now, it's probably more beat up than what it was. And I mean, again, I guess I'm not trying to knock anybody. I think when you get to a certain level, it's just like, wait, you didn't tell me about this, whatever. I mean, nothing in the anodization, like the, no snail trails, God forbid, or anything like that. But he was like, yeah, this guy misled me. He's giving me a partial refund, whatever. Are you interested? And I had to play the whole, man, ooh, yeah, I see what you mean kind of thing. But I think that once you get into these higher end Chris Reeves, and again, it is way too late for me now, but I really do like the ones that I have. Like, notice I don't have a micarta inlay one. Like, I do like the wood inlaid versions as well as the carbon fiber. But I think when you get these sorts of knives and then start using them, you're gonna have a hard time selling them unless you just take a huge loss. I think your money is best spent on a plain Jane 31 or in Kosi, where, you know, if you ever do get to a point where you're like, hey, you know, whether you fall out of love with it or you need to move it for the money, your best bet's going to be that plain Jane one that you can send back to the factory to get spa services done, to bead blast, glass blast, whatever, sharpen it, clean it up. That's going to be your best bet at a resale, because I know for a fact that Chris Reeve will not even touch these unique graphic ones. I mean, they'll sharpen it for you. They'll work the clip side, which is plain, but they're not going to touch anything that happens to this side. And I think that's appropriate, right? I mean, you couldn't like redo this on everyone that you get. Not that there's probably too many of them, but it was just kind of interesting to me, where I kind of thought about it after I had 5 of them with a 6th one on the way. I do have a Sabenza 21 carbon fiber show side in Damascus. I've been waiting for it for a very long time, but maybe it's too late for me, but it won't be too late for somebody else, where I think that you kind of reach a point of diminishing returns where it's like, it's not, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's like you customizing a knife, because that's just like trash. And the people that try to sell knives that they personally customized, good luck. Like, I don't really feel bad for them, whatever, but I think when you get into this realm where, it's not like these are different models. Like, oh, yeah. Since we've gone down this rabbit hole. So if I pull out a plain Jane 31, looks like that, and then I take this unique graphic 31, they're the same knife, they're just different materials. So it's not like a Shiro or something where it's like, oh, this is a higher end version of this one. It's higher end only by, well, it depends on who you ask, but the blade material and then whatever sort of unique graphic is on this. It's not inherently a different knife or anything like that. So someone who's trying to get in the game or whatever, interested in things, I don't know if your intended audience would be as interested in, something like this, that you're like, it's got a couple scratches in it. Yeah, it's still $800, or like this thing just came back from the factory. It's basically brand new. Call it $450, So just kind of something that's been going through my mind. I don't know if it'll amount to anything. It certainly has not influenced any of my decisions, but it's something that has me thinking. Like, once you same model, but you start dressing it up, and then you use it like I do, I think it's going to take the right buyer, and they're kind of few and far between if you're actually using them. So just some food for thought. Again, this wasn't a long making amends or anything like that. Just wanted to show my face. It's been a while. I have a couple knife reviews coming up. I will be traveling this weekend though, so might be out of pocket a little bit, but I appreciate y'all tuning in, and we will see you next time.